let's just get started, shall we? Clicked on this video because you want to know, should I take my baby away on a transatlantic flight? I don't know what to tell you. Do you enjoy torture? Do you not enjoy holidays? Do you enjoy getting your patience tested? Well, in that case, I guess you better keep watching. So I've just got back from my second transatlantic flight with a baby. At any point you would like to nominate me for the Pride of Britain Awards, I'm sure I can leave some sort of details down below. But the first trip I went on with him, he was 6 months. That was London to New York. That was a 7-hour flight. And I've just got back from London to Miami, Miami to London. And that was a 9-hour flight. Yeah. And he is now 8 months. So I feel like in the last 8 weeks, I've done enough traveling with a baby to give good enough advice on what I would do differently maybe, or what I would recommend and all that good stuff. So obviously if you have a baby that's under the age of 6 months or over the age of 8 months, you may need to taper some of this information slightly differently. So I'm going to categorize this into 6 months and 8 months old, mainly because the changes in him in the last 2 months are so huge. I think the flights have been so different based on what he now is capable of doing compared to when he was 6 months. So I'll go through all that anyway. But first things first, one of the best advice I was given before I got on my first flight, which was the New York flight, 7 hours long, was to introduce a different toy every hour you're on the flight. Now, that does mean I have to bring 7 toys with me on the flight, but they can often be something really small, like, you know, something like this. Not annoying, by the way, because everyone else on the plane, not annoying. It's like little sensory books, even something like a teether. A teether I would count as a toy, because even sometimes when he's not chewing it, it's just like that. This little sensory blanket thing. I pretty much got all these things on Amazon, but actually you can get so many like cheaper alternatives too. I was just in a rush and needed it delivered like the next day. But you can get those little, what do they call them? They're called like treasure boxes, I think. And they're basically made of like household stuff, like wooden spoons and things like that. So you can definitely find like cheap ways to sort of, you know, entertain your baby. But these are kind of just the ones that I grabbed. And also because something like this, I can like fold it down smaller to shove in my carry-on bag. You know, that's the thing as well. You have size of toys. So yeah, don't get anything too large, or things that like have textures. I threw a few books in there as well we read. Of course, out of all the toys that I took with him, the entire £42 I spent on toys, obviously what is better than the wire that comes with the headphones on the plane? Not that I actually even got to watch anything anyway, the entire time. So just to paint the picture, he didn't sleep. Didn't sleep the entire flight going there. It was just kind of constant playing. It wasn't actually as hard as what it sounds. 7 hours playing with a baby, no sleep, does sound hard. But honestly, because he was 6 months old, he obviously couldn't like crawl or anything like that at that point. And he was able to sit up on his own, but not completely unaided. I'd obviously have to either sit behind him or put pillows around him. And so on the flight, he was just sitting on my lap anyway. And I remember saying to my mum, like, oh God, like, at least he can sit still in my lap, you know? Whereas if the baby was like 1 or something, it must be so hard for parents to have like a 1-year-old that want to be walking and running or crawling up and down the plane. But my mum made a really good point. She's like, yes, but when they're 1, their attention span is longer. So at least they'd watch a film. Whereas obviously Hudson, there was no like watching a film or any form of telly, you know, on the plane at all. It was pure me entertaining him. So it was exhausting. But yeah, I definitely kept the same thing, the same sort of mentality going into the Miami trip for when he was 8 months, where I brought toys along with me and offered it to him throughout the flight. The only difference is not so much with toys, because he'd still play with like any of these toys at 8 months old. I had to bring way more snacks. So Hudson is just obsessed with snacks, basically any sort of finger type food. Actually, I'll go and get the ones that I use. We took things like this, the Ella's Kitchen puffs. He absolutely loves them, and they pretty much just melt in his mouth the moment he puts them in. These are from 6 months. So I took a packet of these on the plane, as well as 2 packets of these. These are these little wafers. Again, they just melt in their mouth, so they're really easy. Yeah, plenty of snacks. I think I took 2 packets of these, like different flavors. 2 packs of these different flavors, and then obviously his milk and his food on top. Now obviously he wouldn't normally go through 2 packets of puffs and 4 wafers in a 24-hour period at home, but it was mainly for things like on takeoff and landing. If his ears went funny, I wanted him to be able to suck on something and things like that, so I just wanted to be able to offer him them if I had them. But the biggest kind of, oh, what's the word? The thing that's most hard about the flight was, especially on the New York flight when he was younger, was the sterilising of the bottles. So I took with me 2 bottles. So the entire trip I took like 5 bottles, but on the flight alone I just took 2 bottles with me, and that way I didn't have to like wash up loads of bottles as I went along. I just thought, right, the moment he's finished drinking it, I have to get up and wash it, and that's that. So I took with me his formula in a milk dispenser. I actually don't have the milk dispenser that I use now because I broke it. But basically, I got it from Savers for £1. It was so cheap. So I'm going to actually go and buy some more just to stock up anyway, because it's really handy to have in your bag and things like that. But they're basically a milk dispenser that holds 3 bottles worth of formula. So each sort of, it's a dispenser that's cut into like 3 sections, and each section allows up to like 9 scoops of formula. So you're literally getting 3 bottles, a whole day's worth almost. But when he was 6 months old, obviously, he was on like 5 bottles a day. So I had to take 2 milk dispensers away with me, 2 bottles, and after every feed, I'd have to almost prepare for the next one. So once he finished the feed, I'd go and wash it up. This was how like on it you had to be. So the moment he finished the feed, I'd then pass them to my husband, and then I'd go into the like bathroom of the toilet, which by the way, I've just found out on my recent flight that if you give it to the air hostess, I think they do like rinse it for you, but I was doing all of it anyway in the bathroom of the toilet, just like cleaning it all through, like as thorough as you can. You can take in with you like a tiny little pot of like fairy liquid or something, but you'd have to pour it into your own little pot to be able to take it through to the plane or whatever. I'd rinse it through, then I'd have to go and ask the air hostess after about an hour to fill it up with boiling hot water, and then I'd have to wait an hour for that boiling hot water to cool down, ready for his next feed. But because obviously babies work in generally 3-hour cycles of milk, it took the hour to cool down, so it was constantly thinking of the next feed. I found that really difficult. Whereas compared to his recent trip to Miami, he's on maybe 2 bottles a day now, 3 sometimes. I didn't have to worry about bottles too much. I've done it twice for the flight, on takeoff and landing, and I just had his sippy cup of water. So that was like a massive like help. That's the one big thing I would say was so much more better, that I didn't have to worry about prepping bottles as much this time around. Honestly, as well, entertaining wise, the baby, if you can, you should try when you book your holiday and book your flights, you should try and get the seats at the very front of the plane where you have all of that leg room. I didn't have to pay anything extra for it. I was told by British Airways that if you have an infant, you get given those seats like for free anyway, but you still have to book them. So you won't get charged for it, but when you sort of like book your flights or whatever, you have to sort of just say you want those seats, because basically it's kind of first come, first serve. So when we went to Miami, luckily me and my husband had the seats for our baby, but there were so many kids on that flight. I was really surprised to see how many babies were on that flight. It was like 5. And all the people behind us who couldn't have them seats were with a baby literally like in just a normal row where they've got basically hold their baby next to them like this. Whereas I put Hudson on the floor a lot, and he played on the floor. So basically I brought with me a blanket, put his blanket on the floor in front of me, put all of his toys out front, and he just played as if it was like our living room. So that really helped. So I would definitely say if you are traveling with a baby of around the age where they would be sitting up on their own and playing on the floor, definitely try and get those front seats. Now, this next subject is something I'm still struggling with. Yeah, jet lag. So for New York and Miami, they're both 5 hours difference. They're 5 hours behind UK time. We kept Hudson on the English time when we went to New York. This is because I was only there for 3 nights and 4 days, so it wasn't worth me ruining my entire routine back home for the sake of 3 nights. It just wasn't worth it. That being said, my holiday was sufficiently impacted by this decision. So obviously Hudson thought it was still English time, so his day every single day started at 3 a.m. because he thought it was 8 a.m. So we all got up at 3 a.m. He had his porridge at 3 a.m. We played with him. We were like just walking around the apartment. It's really weird because they say in New York it's the city that never sleeps, but it's also the city that just doesn't wake up because nothing's open till like 10. It's really weird. Flip side, in Miami, we've done the complete opposite. We made him completely adapt to American time. And so as a result of that, our holiday was great. He was loving life. He had the best time ever. But since we've been home, I'm now on the 5th day of being home, no, 4th day, sorry, of being home, and it is savage. He just doesn't sleep. It has been so hard. So it's kind of like swings and roundabouts, really. Yeah, food when you're traveling abroad. So I just brought with us all of his food. So basically we had a shoebox and we filled the shoebox with Ella's Kitchen, breakfast, lunch and dinner, basically. I used a lot of it as just in case meals because obviously I wanted him to try like our foods and like, you know, I say real foods. The Ella's Kitchen packets are real food, but you know what I'm saying? They're like obviously a, you know, pre-made pouch sort of thing. I wanted him to try like actual food that we were eating ourselves. So every day at breakfast, our hotel done like a buffet style breakfast and it was amazing. So we just put him in a high chair. I'm talking about Miami, by the way, now that he's eating solid foods, not so much New York where he was pretty much still all on bottles with the touch of baby food. It was Miami, he's now on 3 meals a day. And so breakfast, we gave him porridge, he had muffins, fruit, water. I mean, he loved watermelon. It must have been his first teeth coming through, but he loved it. That was a really, really good opportunity actually. And so honestly, if you're taking a baby that's now on food or now about to start to go on food to a sort of resort where you can offer him like a buffet style where you get to try a bit of anything, it was so good for him because he got to try loads of things and it meant that I didn't have to waste any cooking it at home and throwing it in a bin when he doesn't like it. Lunchtime is when I always would use a Ella's Kitchen pouch because I never really knew when I fancied lunch. It could be at 3 in the afternoon, it could be at midday. I went with the flow. So at the same time every day, I would always give him his lunch from an Ella's Kitchen pouch, just so much easier. He knew when he was getting it, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, the Ella's Kitchen, when it came to that, was amazing because they're so like compact and small as well. I haven't got one with me here, but you can just like store them really neatly in the bag. They don't take up any room. So that's just how we done it for the sake of a week. And it worked really, really well. So I would always take over, I just felt right with the Ella's Kitchen stuff. You sort of know what's in it, you know it's organic. So I didn't really want to like not take anything and then have to go and buy it all over there because obviously you don't really know how he might react to their food or anything like that. So yeah, just stuck to what I knew really on that one. So I think I've covered pretty much everything. I was going to do a whole video actually on just taking your baby to New York and just taking your baby to Miami, but generally speaking what people really want to know is the travel, isn't it? I mean, once you're there, it's up to you what you do with your holiday, but it's the travel, getting there, how do you survive the flight? So I survived it both times. It isn't as bad as what it may feel. It's hard, it's really, really hard, but the babies know no different really. I mean, they just love new surroundings, don't they? So don't worry. Have the best time and just continue to make the memories really, because that's essentially what it's all about, isn't it? I think that's everything. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, because I feel like I should have said way more, but I can't really think off the top of my head right now what else I need to mention. If you have any questions, leave them in the description comment box below and I'll sort of write back any suggestions. But thanks so much for watching my video and I hope you all had a lovely Christmas and New Year and I will see you soon.